am Megan, also known as Reading with Hot Chocolate, and I have a true crime book for you today as my review. I will be reviewing American Predator, The Hunt for the Most Meticulous Serial Killer of the 21st Century by Maureen Callahan. And some of you may or may not have ever heard of this person. Israel Keyes is the serial killer we're going to be talking about today. And let me tell you, the person in my head when I hear the name Israel Keyes does not match the actual man that is Israel Keyes. I'll put a picture of him up here so you can see what he looks like. So Israel Keyes, we learn about him after he kidnaps a young lady named Samantha in Alaska. How the story starts is we have Samantha. She's working at one of those like little coffee kiosks, right? That like you just drive through and it just sits kind of in the middle of a parking lot. She goes missing. And pretty quickly the police are like, well, it's kind of weird, but like maybe she just ran away. And all of her friends and her family are like, she didn't just run away. Something has happened. So the Anchorage police probably didn't act as quickly as they should have on some things. They made a lot of assumptions, but they did pull security footage and they see her kind of back away from the register with her hands up. But they're like, why is she turning off the lights? Why is she not hitting the panic button? And then the assailant climbs actually into the window. So you have to think about how tall and how strong he was to be able to pull himself up into that window to be in the box with her, right? He didn't just come through the door. So this assailant, we don't know who he is at this point, takes her to a car. He sends letters to her dad with like clues on where to find the letters to try to convince him that she's still alive. And it's a wild story. And they start to piece together his movements because he is using her debit card like an idiot. This is that part, in the documentary when they're like, but he made one fatal error. This is his fatal error. He is using her credit card. So they're following it. And they're like, how is he jumping around? He's all over the place. And it gets used in Texas. And this is Texas because, don't mess with Texas. If you don't want to get caught in Texas, stay out of there. Because they will get you. So they end up pulling him over in Texas. Seems very unassuming. And very quickly they realize like, oh, this guy's got some secrets that we probably need to investigate. They find a lot of things in his car related to Samantha, which is kind of how they connect him. He's got her debit card, all those kind of things. So like Samantha's locked. Like we got her. At least got who abducted her. And as they talk to him, they start trying to get information out of him. Like, where is Samantha? What did you do with her? Because by this point, they're pretty sure that she's not still alive. Because he's no longer in Anchorage. And she's not with him. And he starts to tell this, like, horrifying story. Like, Criminal Minds couldn't make this stuff up, guys. Criminal Minds gets their stories from somewhere. This dude is the somewhere. Okay, this is where Israel Keyes is. And he starts telling them that basically because it was so cold in Anchorage that he kept her in a shed. He had killed her, he'd strangled her. And then the next day, he went on a cruise, guys. This man took his girlfriend and his daughter and were like, be back in like 12 days, guys. We're going to go on a cruise. So they went on a cruise. Meanwhile, Samantha's body is in his shed. And because it's Alaska in the winter, it's basically a freezer box. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. It's fine. I'll deal with it when I get back. Like, this is the mentality of Israel Keyes, guys. He's unhinged. And it gets worse. I know that doesn't sound possible, but it does get worse. So when he gets back, that's when he kind of starts leaving these messages for her father. He actually had to, like, figure out how to keep her eyes open so that it looked like she was still alive when he was sending these messages to her father. Like, this dude, ugh. I can't even. He ends up dismembering her and he puts her in the lake. He tells them where to find her. They find her. It's crazy. And they're like, okay, we can believe this guy because he led us to where her remains were and he was honest with us. So when he tells us things, we need to assume that he is telling us the truth. And he has a really weird boundary with things. Anytime it comes to any kind of like sexual assault or details on like that, he kind of just says, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. So he has like a weird moral compass in his own brain of what he will and will not talk about. He'll be happily to tell you where he buried the body, but he's not going to tell you what he did before he got to the part where he was burying a body. Kind of weird. So then they start talking to him more, and they realize that he travels extensively for work, right? So they start kind of looking at where he's traveled. They start calling other precincts to say, hey, do you have any unsolved murders? Because we got a guy who may be to blame, which is crazy. And they start finding cases, and there's a case of a couple out east, and he tells them exactly where the bodies are, and he tells them what happens and how they got there and all this. And he put them in an abandoned house that got torn down. And he was kind of using their bodies almost as leverage to maybe tell more or not tell more. And they're like, we don't have the bodies. Like, we have scavenged the dump for these bodies because this house was torn down. And he's like, sorry about your luck. So he is kind of just bizarre. If you ever watch any of the interview tapes with him, gives you bad vibes all the way around. I will point out one of the detectives that was, I think the federal prosecutor sounds correct. Feldis, idiot. Total idiot. Like, he should have been removed from the case. So Feldis would like try to script the scenarios. It gave me like the Italian police officer that dealt with Amanda Knox. Kind of gave me that same vibe. Because if you ever watch anything on Amanda Knox, the police detective in Italy was acted like he was Columbo. This guy's kind of the same way. He is like, here's what we're gonna script it, and this is what I think he's gonna say back when we say this, and everybody else is like, this dude sucks. And it's amazing that he wasn't actually pulled off the case, because he actually ruined some of the interrogation because like Israel Keyes didn't want to deal with him. So what we learn is that Israel Keyes has kill kits buried across the country so that when he's traveling for work, he can just be like, okay, got it. And like off he goes to commit murder. And we still don't have an accurate count of how many people he killed. They're guessing 12 based on, if you've seen, there's a documentary out recently called The 11 Skulls. And it's because he drew 11 skulls. And so they think that maybe there's 11, because at one point he said like less than 12. So they're thinking it's probably 11. It could be more than that. We have no idea. But it was wild. The Anchorage police really screwed up Samantha's case. They waited a long time to pull that footage. Then you had Feldis asking stupid questions and just kind of really mucking up the whole scenario, which is just insane to me. One of the other like crazy things to me was how well he planned yet didn't plan. He left a lot of clues behind when he kidnapped Samantha and different ways to track him. He was on camera all over the place with her, and like there was so many chances police drove by them. Like there was 1,000 chances, it feels like, for Samantha to be rescued, and every single one of them was missed, which is just devastating. And then just they're kind of, oh, she ran away, it's fine, the police, like whatever, did not help. It helped him, but it didn't help anybody else. But he made so many mistakes, like being seen on camera, using her debit card. Like he was actually seen stealing her debit card out of the car. By people either related to her or people in the neighborhood. I mean, there was so many chances. It's like he got really confident and then started to screw it up. He could have gone on for years. He did go on for years without being caught. And Samantha is the reason that he was caught. And the stories are absolutely feral and insane. And there's so many other cases that we have no idea because he killed himself in jail. Yep. They had tried to like take all the razor blades from him. They tried to do all these things, and then somehow he got a straight razor. And of course then took that opportunity to end his own life without giving any more accounts of where the remains of people may be. So the skulls that he drew and left behind is why they think there's 11. I tell you, it is the craziest. It's crazy. This is probably one of the craziest stories. And I'm sure there's a lot more out there. Maureen did a really good job of giving a really great overview. I'm sure there's lots of books about him, lots of documentaries. My true crime group chat and I were just talking about him, and we all were like, oh my gosh, we should read this book and kind of talk about it together. Samantha and her family is why Israel Keyes was caught. That their family tragedy was able to get this monster off the streets and save countless other lives, because we still don't know how many it is. We still don't know which cases could be linked to him and which ones may not be linked to him. And we'll never know because he's not here anymore to tell us. But I would highly recommend reading this book. I gave you a lot of information, but there's a lot more in there. So if you want to check it out, I highly recommend American Predator, The Hunt for the Most Meticulous Serial Killer of the 21st Century. And that is by Maureen Callahan. And I gave this book 3 stars, or 3 hot chocolates, shall we say. And yeah, go and check it out and do a deep dive on Israel Keyes if you want, because it's wild. Don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get updates on when I post new videos, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day.